So I'm standing outside of the St. Petersburg, Florida Holocaust Museum, and there is a really neat art display here that I thought I would share with you. And of course, if you're here, you can certainly take a look at it. Beautiful Questions, The Art of Samuel Bach. And what I think is really interesting is that Mr. Bach was one of the first artists that I actually reviewed for the St. Petersburg Times when I was an arts correspondent for them. And in fact, his art show was the reason that I first came to the Holocaust Museum at least 20 years ago. Artist Samuel Bach is a Holocaust survivor who creates beautifully detailed and highly colorized work that pose unanswerable questions about the horrors he survived. While his art is part testimony of experience, his paintings also explore the Holocaust, society, and the systems that allow atrocities and injustices to happen. Bach feels that the creation of art could be seen as a sign of resilience. And you can actually scan to learn more about the artist. So some of his pieces are very, very beautiful in the sense that they portray both the horror and the survival that he endured. This one is called Under the Trees. It was done in 2002. It's an oil on canvas. It's part of the permanent collection of the Florida Holocaust Museum. Part of a series, Under the Trees, is an unorthodox yet a beautiful landscape where trees are uprooted and cut off to reveal thousands of gravestones. The unmarked stones, some marred with bullet holes, signify the violence endured by European Jews at the hands of the Nazis during World War II and memorialize the artist's father, who was murdered in a mass shooting in the forest of Ponari outside the city of Vilna, Lithuania. What a lot of people don't realize is that before the death camps, the Nazis would go out and basically round up the Jews from various villages. And because during the time of World War II, the villages were very isolated from one another, nobody quite knew what was going on. And so their arrival would be a surprise. They would round up the Jews of the village and then do a mass execution. This one is called By Law. It is a charcoal and oil on paper, and it is part of the permanent collection. Lady Justice holds the Hebrew letter Tzed for righteous person in one hand, and in the other a broken rainbow. She is hidden by the fractured tablets of the Ten Commandments. The letter Vav, the sixth letter in the Hebrew alphabet, stands for the sixth commandment, thou shalt not murder, and invites us to think about the connection between biblical law and mass murder. It's really a beautiful work, and it's cleverly done. This is called New Moon for Old Landscape. And this basically shows an empty cup resting atop a rocky outcrop whose vast internal space resembles a cosmos empty of content, perhaps a reflection of the universe before the moment of creation. But this notion is quickly dispelled by the adjacent cluster of abandoned ghetto buildings. What spilled out of this enormous vessel of pain was not a new beginning, but an old ending. The vestiges of a destroyed Jewish community, a familiar vision refrained in many of Bach's earlier works. The last few images, I'll just kind of go by. This one is on Yona's Place from 2002. The dove is actually a rock that he has placed upon his father's grave, and it is enmeshed in wire and paper that resembles the Star of David. This one is called Testimonials, and it was actually inspired by Albert Durer's Melancholia, one from 1514, which was an engraving featuring a brooding angel-like figure surrounded by the trappings of theology, science, and philosophy. And testimonials, the angel is a well-dressed woman who appears to be waiting to depart on a long-awaited trip, perhaps leaving on the approaching train or hot air balloon in the background. This one is To the Gate, 2002. On the day in which Mother and I were expulsed from our home and forced to march with the other Jews of Vilna to the gate of the ghetto, it rained and the sky was very dark. Holding on to a few essential belongings, we were soaked, disoriented, and dumbstruck. We have lost everything. Our dispossessed domesticity had been thrown out into the streets, not unlike broken china. Our hopes were gone. The promise of the silver spoons with which we seemed to have been born came to nothing. The world did not seem to care. In our eyes, the streets of the Gentiles were bathed in sunlight. And that is by the artist. And the last image of the series, Jacob's Mount from 2003. This is again oil on canvas. An artificial sky has been pasted on wooden panels. Remnants of prayer shawls or shrouds seem to be floating on it like clouds, but behind them is a real sky. A ladder, hastily put together, seems to be offering an escape, but one can see it. In it a different purpose. It might be awaiting God's messengers, angels that will explain the unexplainable and carry back to the Almighty our thanks, our prayers, or our unforgiveness. And that's commentary by L. Langer. So if you ever have the opportunity, please do come to the Florida Holocaust Museum. It is a really remarkable building here in St. Petersburg, Florida, that details a historic event that in recent years has been under attack. If you do want to come to the museum, it is located just off of Central Avenue and 5th Street behind Regions Bank.